Hey guys, it's Samantha. I'm here with my Caraval series discussion. I teased this video coming up in my August wrap-up because I finally finished this trilogy, so of course I need to talk about my thoughts on the entire series. Like always, this series discussion will be completely spoiler-free, so don't worry if you haven't read it yet, you can still stay around. But I will be talking about my thoughts on this entire series, spoiler-free, and yeah, let's just begin with a synopsis for the series. So, first of all, we need to explain what Caraval is. Caraval is this game situation that comes around like every year, and it happens in like a different location every year. You can only participate in it if you've been invited. And Scarlet, who is a protagonist in the first book, has been writing letters to Legend, who is kind of like the boss of Caraval. He runs things. Scarlet has been sending letters to Legend every single year to try and convince him to invite Scarlet and her sister ever since their mother disappeared. And now this year is like very important because after this year, Scarlet is like being married off. So this will be the last year that she and her sister will be able to go together. And she ends up getting invited, and a lot of stuff goes down. So that's all I can give you for like a synopsis. I feel like typically people say a little bit more, but I feel like this is kind of like the best way to go. So yeah, then let's rank the 3 books in the series. At my least favorite, we have Legendary, which is the second book in the series. Then on the second place, we have Finale. And first place, we have Caraval, which is the only book I have physically. So you're gonna have to deal with that. So to explain this ranking, I have to give you individual reviews for each book, so let's just immediately go into things. Starting off with Caraval, which is the first book in the series, and I give it 5 stars. Like I said before, I just absolutely adored this book. I think it set up this world amazingly. I thought this was so interesting. The magic system is so unlike anything I've ever read because the way the magic works in Caraval is very unclear. It's like, is it actual magic? Is it like tricks of the mind? And there's like a lot of aspects to it that are just like very different from any other YA fantasy series that I've personally read before. I really like Scarlet as a main character, which is kind of controversial because from what I've seen, most people don't like Scarlet as a protagonist in this first book. But I feel like it's because she's a very atypical main character. She's very much driven by the love for her sister, and she is very like rule focused. I feel like typically YA main characters, especially in this time, like are like rule breakers, are trying to like get out of the norm, while Scarlet is like very much like trying to survive within these rules. But I thought that made her such an interesting main character, and I really loved following her and kind of seeing her development throughout this book. There's an amazing romance in this book. Like I was just squealing from excitement and cuteness because the romance was just so great, and I was completely gripped by the story of this book and just at the edge of my seat the entire time. There's some amazing twists and turns that just absolutely changed the way you look at things, and I really adored my time reading this book. And then we get to Legendary, which I gave 2 to 5 stars. I just think this book didn't have like the same magical feeling as the first book did, because that's a thing I loved the most about the first book, is like this atmosphere of Caraval. And I feel like this book was missing that. I really loved the Fates, which is a new element brought into this world. I thought they were very interesting, but I also thought that they were very underexplained in this book, especially considering how much of a part they play in the story. I wanted more of Caraval in this book because Caraval, there's again a new Caraval game going on in this book, but I wanted more of it. I felt like it was very much like a subplot. Even though it was kind of like the main thing that was going on, it was very minor, actually, and I wanted just more of it. This book also switches protagonists. This one follows Stella, who is Scarlet's sister, and I didn't really like her as a main character as much as I did Scarlet. She's like very much more of your like stereotypical YA protagonist, and I didn't connect to her as much. I thought she also was a little bit more one-dimensional. I also didn't like the romance in this one at all. It's more of like a love triangle situation, but I feel like it's so poorly done that I'm not really sure in this book if it was meant to be a love triangle or not. I've read this third book, so I know it's meant to be a love triangle, but like after finishing this book, I was like, I'm not entirely sure if it's meant to be or not, because it was just so poorly done, in my opinion. And then I also thought this book was like extremely predictable. Like none of the big twists that happened in this book were ones that I didn't see coming. In Caraval, there were still some things that I predicted, but like most like the big twists like completely like took me by surprise and shocked me. But I feel like that wasn't the case in this one. Didn't like it as much. Then the third book and the last book is very promptly named Finale. Very easy. I gave it 2 to 5 stars because I feel like this one is like a perfect in-between mix of Caraval and Legendary to me, where there's a lot of aspects I really loved in this book, but also some aspects I hated. I really liked the main plot. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was an interesting direction to take the story in. It gripped me from beginning until the very end, and I was just so interested in it, and I thought it was really well done, and I thought that wrapped up this series perfectly. I was very intrigued throughout the entire book to see how things were gonna end up, because I found it hard to like kind of predict, I guess, what was going on and what was going to happen. So that was really fun. There's like no major twists in this one, but it is a wild ride and a fun ride. I also think this book expanded on the world in a very interesting way. It mainly did a great job at like explaining the fates more properly than the second book did, but I feel like at times it did feel a little bit infinite, because I feel like some of the world building that happened in this book should have happened in the second book instead, and I feel like that would have made things a bit more cohesive. But the thing that I hated about this book was the romance drama. I just feel like it was way too much, and I simply didn't care, and it also got like super repetitive, and I feel like if it would have taken a little bit more of a backseat in the story, I would have liked it more, because now it was just like way too much. So yeah, to wrap this up with some overall thoughts, I thought this book started off very magical and unique, but I feel like it ended as a very typical YA series, and that isn't necessarily bad. I still had a fun time reading things, but I did think it became more predictable and stereotypical towards the ending, while it was so unique and different in the beginning, so that was a little bit disappointing. I really like the world and the magic system. I think it's very interesting. I feel like we only scratched the surface of it. I think there's so much more to explore in this world, which I think Stephanie Garber felt the same way, because she wrote a different series in this world called, I don't know what the series is called, but I believe the first book is called Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I'm very excited to read that. It's a duology, I believe. And from what I know about it, it's a series that you can read without having read this one, but it does take place in like the same world. So I'm very excited to read that and like see more of this world and like learn more about this world, because like I said, I thought it was very interesting. I just want more from it. I think the leadership drama was definitely unnecessary and like dragged out. I feel like it was just a bit unnecessary, and it took away from parts that I liked. I feel like the characters also got pretty one-dimensional after the first book, and I don't know, I didn't really feel like they were like fully formed characters with like flaws and like developments, and that's why I also like didn't really connect to as many characters after book 1, because I felt like they were very one-dimensional. But I still had fun reading the series. I just think that it got a little bit underwhelming towards the end. Like if I think about book 1 now, I remember just how much I loved it and how excited I was for everything. And then if I think about how the rest of the series went, even though I still enjoyed it, it just like, it feels like a disappointment to me a little bit. It felt very underwhelming compared to the first book. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Caraval series. Very concise, very short. I'm sorry I don't have a lot to say about it, because I feel like a lot of my thoughts on the series are embedded in spoilers, and I don't want to talk spoilers in these videos. But I am open to discussion spoilers with people who have read the series if you want in the comments, so definitely leave your comments down below with your thoughts on the series. But do leave like a little spoiler warning at the top of your comments if you are going to go into spoilers, to people who haven't read the series yet know not to read your comments. And that's all I have for you today. Hopefully I'll see you guys around next time as well. Bye.